Okay, maybe that's connected. Hey, all, welcome. Let's fire up chat here. Make sure you all can hear me. If it's as hot as where you are as it is here in New York, was it 93 or something today? And it's 86 in the apartment now. So, yeah, I think the air conditioner is going to go on soon. Now we don't have to fight the outside heat as much. And see if we can do a slight adjust there. Welcome to Power Hour. What are you up to? 28 or something? We got a while before we hit 50 or 100. Episode 1000 will be fun. That's a nice number on there. Hope you're doing good. Actually, I should check if you guys can hear me. Get on them mighty 3 for $10 reading glasses. Nick McMinn, Darth Vapor, Tracy Thompson. Hello, Justin. Thank you. Fog Dog, John Benanati, Dallas Vapor, Jay McH. You made it on time, but I was late. Ryan Thompson, well, thanks for checking in at least. Saint of the Sinners, welcome. Fog Dog, thank you for the feedback. Rick Crawford, hello. Red Color and Sean, hello from Germany. Well, you're saying hello from Germany. I have family there, but I'm not saying hello from Germany. Tracy, thanks for joining us. Yeah, it's a kind of weather where it's just well, it's totally swamp weather, and you just can't drink enough water. You just have to dive in the air conditioning or something. Just tired, and a hot vape, no, absolutely not. I haven't vaped yet today, but I will be diving into. Well, if it gets a little bit cooler, I've got the eFusion Duo with the intake dual today, DNA device, and just with some 70 VG with a touch of mint. That's if anything. I know I'm going to be pretty stressed tonight with just tons of paperwork just sitting there, uh, and that's probably when I'll be blasting the air conditioner, have a fan right on me super high, and get the apartment down another 10. Well, not the apartment, the room down another 10 degrees or something. But I bet you we're probably 10 degrees cooler here than some other parts of the country are. Johnny Ramirez, thanks for joining us. Tracy, yeah, I like this one. I like the panels. Usually I'm just on like basic black or something, but for some reason, this one just worked. And I've had this for at least a couple of years now, and I still like it. It's got kind of the sharp corners now. I think uh, not aesthetics, hand feel. There's a better word for it. For the devices are better now. They're a little more curved, a little more conscious of the shape of the hand as opposed to just a pure box mod. But the looks of this one, especially with the silver tank or an RDA or something on top. Darth Vapor says, all I use is OhmLife or Samsung 30Q and the 40T and haven't had any problems. Fantastic. Excellent. Stuart Adrian, welcome. Justin, mesh is good for hot weather since the vape's cooler. Yeah, I gotta come up. I think, what is it? The Fire Luke? Get a decent mesh sub-ohm tank just when I want to just go brainless. I don't want to build. I don't want to do anything. I just want to try to enjoy mesh without having to do any kind of work. And I don't have an all-day vape. I rarely use tanks. I mostly use RDAs, but I just don't want to build mesh. Jada Ramirez dug out his eFusion DNA 200 yesterday. I'm just using a VTC 5As in here. Pair of VTC 5As, no LiPo or anything powering this one. For anyone with a question, when we dive into those later, battery space mooch. You don't need a hashtag. You don't need an @ symbol. Just battery space mooch. That gives a nice red tag that I can see easily in chat to separate it from the interchat talks and stuff like that. Justin's favorite mesh sub-ohm tank is Smoke Smock TFE 16 with the next mesh single coil 80 watts. Replaces Mesh Pro, Falcon, and Valerian 2. Okay. Brad Palmer, the Aspire Cleto Pro if you want dumb mesh. I'll write that one down. I am all for dumb when it provides a nice benefit. Johnny Ramirez, eFusion has an internal battery. I don't know what it is. Yeah, they used to have that, what was it, 900 milliampere hour? I forgot the company name, 3S LiPo. Don't know what they're using. Darth Vapor has a Kylan, loves using it. Jose Rezo, is it true that all mech users have at least one venting episode? I haven't. I think thousands of others haven't. Also, there's no inherent reason in using a mech to cause venting. I mean, you can have batteries going to. I'm assuming you're talking about thermal runaway, the explosion, the fire and explosion. You can do it just as easily in a regulated device by having damaged wrap up at the top, and it short circuits every time you put it in and out of a regulated device or a charger. So it's not true at all that all mech users have had a venting episode, especially now with so many of the mechs having liner, insulator up at the top, um, batteries just being better overall, and people being a little more conscious about the condition of their wraps. Red Claw and Sean, the copper arcless he mentioned arrived this week. So far, I feel no difference between the brass one, just FYI. Thank you for the feedback. Yeah, the difference in conductivity in the metal itself, nothing. You'd never feel it. You don't buy for metal. You buy for how the threading was done, the smoothness of the connection, the size of the contact patch between the battery and the contact. That's what makes a difference by a factor of 10, if not a 100, versus what the metal will do for you in a mech, changing from one metal to another, especially the threads. Johnny Ramirez asked if I like billet boxes. Never used one. Don't know. I like the look. I like the concept. Some of them sound very fussy, very expensive, but others, I can't comment too much about certainly the usability of it and about them until I use them, and I certainly can't afford one. Saint of the Sinners, have you seen the post from HB Powerwall? Yes, in fact, I commented. He had an 18650 he was testing, split the casing down the middle, and didn't vent or damage CID. Yeah, I actually commented twice on that thread regarding that split thing. This was a channel he's referring to called HB Powerwall, where he had a recovered cell from a battery pack split right down the side. Didn't vent out the top, didn't trigger the internal protection, and he disassembled it and unrolled it, and you could see really uneven distribution of something. It looked like the electrolyte, the liquid inside there had been in some places and not others. So I think what happened is either when he was removing the strapping from the bottom, pulling it off, there was a pinhole and some of the electrolyte evaporated and the battery overheated as a result and split open. But batteries can burst and split from the sides. It's one of the reasons why they have bottom vents in some cells, because sometimes the top vent doesn't actuate or can become clogged. If the short circuit or whatever is causing all the extra gas that causes it to burst is right up against the sidewall, that can weaken it enough so it bursts out the side instead of out the top. Darth Vapor asked, have you tried N's Game Liquid yet? No, I have not. Name's not even familiar, but I'm so bad with that because I don't do a lot of experimenting now with liquids and trying a lot of new things. When I win the lottery, I will. Forrest, hello. Tobai, thank you for joining us from Berlin. Okay, let's dive in a little bit to a topic that I'm still getting a surprising number of questions. So actually, typically several dozen a day about, and that is, hey, I've heard this battery has an exaggerated rating. Will it explode? Uh, and I think the wording of that question is important. Will it explode? Well, since they've already used it typically, and it hasn't exploded, um, there's no, it's not guaranteed to explode. But they have these batteries. They bought them. They don't want to buy more batteries. They really want to use it, but they're just scared to death it's going to explode. And right there, I think to myself, why are you using anything that you're afraid of? Stop using it and buy some decent cells. Well, a lot of people don't want to spend the money to do that, and others the only options they have in the country, particularly in Asia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Philippines, uh, Kuala Lumpur, other places where there are no choices other than a half dozen preposterously overrated piles of junk. Any of the Murata cells, like the VTCs and things like that, the Sonys, uh, they're fakes. So the only thing they can get are these junk batteries. So they buy them, and then someone goes, "Whoa, that's, it's going to blow up in your face," and they get all these questions. Now, something that's important to mention is any battery can explode if it's misused or mishandled. Never charge it when it's frozen. Never recharge if it gets over discharged below 2.5 volts. Use a decent charger, not one that charges it 24 hours a day. Uh, if it's damaged physically, if it's dented or dropped or something like that, there's a chance you can cause an internal short circuit and explode. So don't think that if you're using an accurately rated battery, it can't possibly explode. Just as if you are using an overrated battery, that's not a guarantee it will explode. What can cause one of those batteries to explode, and really any battery, but certainly an overrated one, what the danger is if let's say it's a 5 amp battery and you're using it at like 35 amps, that it thinks, quote unquote, that it's being short circuited. And something like that might be like this Enoch that in my testing was a 8 amp battery, somewhere in there, some junk battery. Uh, but at 35 amps, this thing could think, whoa, I'm being short circuited. Because that's, 7 times its rating. So that's huge. That's like running a Samsung, 20S at 150 amps. 5 to 7 times the rating is huge. So something like that could make a battery like this, if perhaps vent, which is just the mechanical, splitting open at the top and spraying out hot liquid, but no fire, no explosion, or could go into thermal runaway potentially. Another one might be this turd of a cell, this IMRIN, which has a nice big 30 amp on it, and of course the website says 30 amp, but on the battery it says max continuous 15 amp, and then something else 30. Just max continuous 15, and there's a big 30 above it. But this was a 10 amp rewrap of an LG cell. At 15 amps, it gets hot enough to boil water. Well, even though it's only 5 amps above the actual rating, what I believe is the actual rating of the cell. So, does that guarantee it's going to explode if it gets hot enough to boil water? No, but it could vent on you. And that kind of abuse over time leads to internal damage to the cell, and that accumulates. And at a certain point, a year down the road, after being pulsed hard, 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 much harder because of the exaggerated ratings, like this Enoch, let's say it's an 8 amp battery, it says 35 amps on it, so they think they're quote safe. They run it at 30 amps. Well, in the meantime, they're zapping the fracking hell out of this battery. Sometime down the road, the battery can go, okay, I've had it, and I'm going to vent or I'm going to go into thermal runaway because internal damage of the plastic insulator between the two sides has gotten damaged, and now the positive and negative can touch, or it's being over discharged, and there's crystals growing, what they call dendrites of metallic lithium that comes out of the solution, and plates on the inside of the battery that accumulates and eventually can build up until it shorts the two sides together. So, will an overrated battery explode? Not guaranteed. Can it? Absolutely. So can any battery, but it becomes more of a problem with an overrated battery because it has taken away so much of the safety margin we get if we know the true rating of a battery. If you've got a 20 amp battery, you can use it at 20 amps and be pretty reasonably sure it's going to have a great life with minimal added risk on top of the risks of damaged wraps and things we always have to deal with because these batteries are never meant to be used for vaping or for anything outside of a protected battery pack. But we lose so much of the safety margin if we use an 8 amp battery at 20 amps, thinking we're safe because it says 35 on it, but we're using it, whatever it is, 2.5 times its rating. That can be an issue. Now, the thing that we can do, um, No, actually, it's not a lot we can do. In some countries, in the US and the EU, there are a lot of resources we have and a lot of great vendors. And we can go to the big names, Samsung, Sony, LG, Panasonic, Sanyo. Though it's getting harder for some of those, or companies like Molicel, re-wrappers like VapCell, and they use some China cells too. It's unfair to call them just a re-wrapper. A China, a wrapping company. I still don't know what to call them. I want something short. And they're fairly good with the ratings. But something we can do, and this is going to be part of just a chart that I had, going to be posting soon. It's going to be part of every Hall of Shame video. But there's just a couple of guidelines that we can use just in terms of ratings and what maximum ratings are. And I'll go through it quickly here because this kind of stuff will be posted. And really what I've tied into is what's the maximum possible current rating for the different kind of capacities you can get, because so many people seem to be attracted to like, oh, I want a 3600 milliampere hour battery, and whoa, 50 amps, that's great. Oh boy. So first rule, there is, and this is for 18650s because by far these are the most popular. I'll eventually do 2700s and 21700s. For 18650s, that's what all this is about. There is no 18650 rated over 3600 milliampere hour. In fact, there's not even a 3600 milliampere hour one. The max is really 3550. It's the Panasonic 18650G. It's the only one at 3550, but everyone rounds it up, so we'll call that one 3600. Now, if you got a battery, an 18650 at 3100 to 3600 milliampere hour, its true rating, the maximum current rating can have is 8 to 10 amps. It could be 2 or 3 amps. Don't everyone, so many times I said, whoa, 3400 milliamp hour, the max it can be is 10 amps, but it could be 3 amps. And then I'll see that person post, Mooch said it's a 10 amp battery. No, I didn't. I said the max it can possibly be is 10 amps, 8 to 10 amps, but it could be 3 amps. Why not call it a 3 amp battery then? Why the high number always gets picked? As humans, we're terrible with these things. Now, 3000 milliampere hour battery, because it's the popular capacity on its own, none of them can ever be above 15 to 20 amps, and it could be a lot lower. That's it. 15 to 20 amps for 3000. Now, sometimes they take a 3000 milliampere hour battery rated at 3100 or 3200. That could be a 15 to 20 amp battery, but don't assume, hey, oh, it says 3200. Oh, that's that's an overrated 3000. I can use it at 20 amps. No, it could actually be a 3200 milliampere hour cell, and you can only use it at 8 amps. For 2100 to 2600 milliampere hours, the highest it can possibly be is 25 amps, and it could be lower, a lot lower. And then for 2000 milliampere hour, the highest it can possibly be is 30 amps. That's the highest any 18650 can ever be. That's the Samsung 20S and the old LG HB2s, 4s, and 6s, which I haven't seen anymore, and are terrible performers. They run cool. They have a 30 amp rating, but they're terrible performers. Get the Samsung 20S. And that is all of them. And in fact, I should just realize I'm going to put on this table that none over 30 amp, just to have that really re-emphasized to anybody on these. And this table, I'm going to post it everywhere regularly, and then it'll be part of the Hall of Shame, of which I have 2 more entries for the Hall of Shame coming up soon. And that's everything really I have about, will these pieces of junk explode? They might. Any battery can explode though, and you just lose a lot of your safety margin if you pay any attention to the exaggerated ratings on these. So shop carefully, look, ask around, try to find out the true ratings. If it sounds great, if it sounds like a rating above so many other batteries you heard about, odds are it's an exaggerated rating. Now let's take a look at chat. And the whole time I could have had these uncomfortable glasses off. Jose Rezo bought some 12,000 milliamp hour 18650s from eBay. That was before he knew anything. Still haven't used them. They might be 1,000. excuse me, 1000s. I think I saw somebody do a teardown. I forgot the 9800 milliamp hour to 12,000, and there's a little tiny cell, like a 14500, spot welded inside, and the rest of the space filled up with sand. I mean, the labor is so inexpensive in China, they can actually still make a ton of money by going through all that labor of putting in a tiny battery and sand inside an 18650 case and then selling it. That's how high the profits are, and that's how low the labor costs are in China. Justin's seen tiny lipos inside 18650s. Shells. Someone else had AAAs. Sid, hola. Thanks for joining us. Looks like Tracy stepped out and came back in. Said back in 2014 when they had AA and AAAs and an 18650 tube. Anything that's going to make money. Someone can, in a weekend, get a bunch of friends together or just put out the word, rent part of a factory floor over the weekend when they're not making sales and just bang out 10,000s, 100,000 cells over a weekend and usually wrap them. And then, they form a company, they sell them all off, fold the company, in a week, and bam, they've made a crap load of money. And you just, I don't know, every month you just do that. Start a new company, sell the batch of these crap cells, and fold before anybody can track you down and do anything. Justin Vickers says a lot of the ridiculous rated 1860s aren't fakes with tiny batteries. I agree. That's very rare. They're more often just worn out laptop, kind of like you said. Yeah, and a lot of them are rewraps too. Like that Imrend is LG NJ1, I believe. Now, completely unknown condition. One of them was it's a 3,500 milliamp hour cell. One of them, one of the four that I had was only measured 3090, like 3,100 milliamp hour. So they're probably junk, low-grade cells or something that had been sitting around for a couple of years, and they just rewrapped them and gave them a ridiculous rating. Z-Man, blue screen of death. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing okay. Thank you. Hope you're doing well. Sid1 is happy that they have so many good vendors now. Yeah, things have gotten a lot better. We have authorized vendors from Molicels, which is incredible because they're great batteries. The only manufacturer that supports us and authorized vendors. I just wish they had. Well, I don't wish anything bad about the vendors they have now, but in a way, I wish we had another 100 authorized Molicel vendors, in the countries where there are none, particularly, in Asia. I'd like to see a lot more Molicel vendors, but it's a more expensive cell, and you're competing against dirt cheap, super overrated cells. So the other cells cost less, and they have much bigger numbers than the Molicels, and they have colorful wraps, blah, blah, blah. So it's really hard for Molicel to sell anything when everyone thinks, oh, hey, I can get something with twice the capacity and 50% more current rating for $1 less. Oh, screw Molicel. In the meantime, this is junk performing a lot worse, and it's getting dangerous the way some of these are used. Another problem with these overrated cells is, if it's an 8 10 amp battery in there, you've got to use like a 0.03, 0.05 coil in order to get enough current out of there to make enough power to have a decent vape. So they're like in the Philippines, they're using 0.05 ohm coils with these piece of junk batteries, particularly that black Enoch, which is very popular in the Philippines. And they're just essentially short-circuiting the battery every time they use them. Now, luckily, the voltage plunges down really low so often, but that damage is building up. And they're all using mechs there. There are very few regulated mods, except the Aegis, but it's a lot of mechs there, and a lot of first-time vapors are using mechs too. So it's just so many recipes for disaster all in one. Red Claw Incheon has seen a vendor selling refurbished VTC 5As. Why would someone buy those? Only like 50 euro cents cheaper than new ones? Because they're 50 cents cheaper. Believe me, 50 cents is a lot of money for people who are shopping around. So many people are utterly and completely focused on cost. And for me, if a battery costs $25, but it has the performance I'm looking for, who cares if it's $25? It lasts a couple of years. I'm not going to notice that money spread over 2 years of having the battery I want every single day, as opposed to saving 50 cents and having crippled performance every single day. How does that become a bargain? So it's a lot of people either not realizing the crap performance they can get, or it's just absolute overriding concern with cost above anything. And you have to respect that. I mean, that's the priority they've set. But I would like them to understand what they're giving up when they do something like that. Sid one, it's sad that they rewrap those cells for vapors like the MJ1 and other low current ratings have nothing to do in the vape scene. For flashlights, they may be okay. Agreed. It could be okay for flashlights, but for vaping, it's a disaster. Encon refurbished cells, but at least they test them. Well, I mean, if they get them responsibly, if they're not, ripping spot welded straps off of things, from battery packs and stuff like that, okay. But as long as they say, hey, this is a refurbished cell. Darth Vapor, do I know if the Nightcore 4-bay chargers are good chargers? I have no idea. Sorry. I've tested the AC powered ones. I'm assuming you're talking about the USB powered ones. I tested I believe the 4-bay and the 8. A couple of them. You can check my test results. Go to my blog at ECF, link in the description below, and check my list of tests. But all the chargers pretty well will charge to a fairly decent voltage. It's the other things that crap at. Now the AC, the ones were just the power cord, not the USB ones, but just power cord into the wall night cores, all ran hot, really hot, and they heated up the batteries too. Those I would avoid. The newer USB ones I'm hearing better things about, but I haven't tested them yet. XTRM Brazen Mooch. Have you heard of a Golesi 21700 battery just all of a sudden go dead? Both of them like 6 months ago, topping off every week, used maybe 10, 12 times. 3 of 8 died that I bought. Well, it sounds like they had some China cells and they were just crap. Doesn't sound like a rewrap of a Samsung or Murata or something like that. It sounds like they just had crappy cells and they just couldn't take it. The China factories, the smaller China factories, have a lot more inconsistencies in the performance, the quality. The internal spot welding can be done by hand. They roll up all the materials, 2 metal tabs coming off. Those have to be spot welded to the inside of the top and bottom of the battery, and that's done by hand in a lot of these smaller China factories. And that adds huge inconsistencies to what's going on and tremendous opportunities for problems to occur, especially over time, because those spot welds have not done well, heat up like crazy. So they heat up, cool down, and they can just pop off. And then the battery's dead. Darth Vapor says the AC ones. Oh, for the night core chargers, they all, as I remember, they all charge to an okay voltage. Check my test reports. It's been at least a year for that. But they all ran hot, and so I don't recommend them. Just because heat's the enemy. Why artificially age your batteries any faster than they already have to be? And don't buy a charger on price. Buy one that's going to treat your batteries well, and it's a good one. Roman Truckin was surprised to find that 21700 actually has different diameters. All 18650s were the same sizes. 18650s are different also. They can be a 1 millimeter range in sizes. The Moly cell 18650 is larger than most. 21700s, there's even a bigger range of possible sizes, but same for 2700s. 18350s can be different sizes. Actually, all the round batteries can have a range, but typically it's within 1 millimeter or smaller. But if they've got a tube mod where they're not accounting for different sizes, or they only tested it for a couple of batteries, instead of buying one of every single one they can find in that size to make sure they all fit, that's what I would do if I was making a mod. Then you can have some mods that don't fit certain batteries. Justin has an iCore UMS4. He likes it, micro USB powered. Jimmy Wolf asks, is there a way to actually refurbish? No. A cell back to say 90%, or is there a cap? Or is refurbished just a gimmick? Well, refurbished just means they've taken it out of a battery pack. It has nothing to do with somehow returning some kind of quality or performance of the battery. It just means it's used or it was put into a battery pack and we took it out of there. Think of it as just salvaged. It has nothing to do with its condition. Now, there's loss of capacity when it's just sitting around or it's been used. Some of that capacity may be able to be returned. It depends on what kind of damage has built up over time. You might be able to get a little bit of it back, but most of it is non-recoverable capacity loss. Increase internal resistance means it's more battery sag. The internal damage that's built up means it's more likely or sooner when you might have a problem with the battery internally short circuiting or something like that. Essentially, you're saying and getting a refurbished cell, you know what? Safety isn't as important to me as saving a little bit of money. So I'm going to give up some safety and I'm going to give up some performance so I can save some money. That's what you're saying when you get a refurbished cell. Now, some people will go, yep, that's worth it. I'm going to take the chance. Others will go, oh, hell no. We got enough issues with batteries already. I'll stick, with something from a good vendor and a good name cell. So for your question, is refurbished a gimmick? No, because refurbished just means, to me, you just took it out of a battery pack of unknown condition. If they're saying refurbished, quote, back to normal or recovered in some way, yeah, that's a gimmick. You might get a little bit back, but not all of it. Certainly not 90%. Obi-Wan, thanks for joining us. You're I mean, your comments are always welcome, so I appreciate that. Thank you. Sid likes the Sky RC charges, the MC3000. Yeah, the MC3000 I think did it pretty well in my testing. Whoa. Mike Berg has the Garfalcon, the AL44 4-bay one. Tracy Thompson only buys some IMR batteries. Yeah, they're a pretty good source. 18650 battery store, Lithium-Ion Wholesale, Illum.com. There's some terrific vendors out there in the States, and then Encon, and I forgot the other one. Um, in the two in the UK, and I'm blanking out now. Fogstar and a couple others in the UK who care about what they sell, and they're going to do their best to get decent sales to you and a decent price too. If you buying from Amazon or eBay, it's a crapshoot. And what do you save? A buck, $2 a sell for a crapshoot? To have no idea what you're getting? For me, that's not worth it, especially when you're going to have them for a couple of years. XTRM, I'm trying to think of how I would pronounce that. Don't know. Brazen. Thank you for the explanation on my Galeazzi question and everything you do for us. Thank you. I think my next 21700 is going to be Molly cells or 40T. Excuse me. Yeah, if you're at 75 watts or lower, 25 amps, Molly cell was a slightly better. Molly cell P42A was a slightly better performer than the 40T, but I don't think you'll see a difference. 40T or the P26A, P42A can be a great choice for up to 75 watts or 25 amps. Above that, Samsung 30T is a little better. Obi-Wan asked, yeah, because he always has the depth of the, it's it's hard to phrase the respect I have for Obi-Wan's comments and his intellectual prowess and his observational skills and things like that have always amazed me. And someday when I grow up, I'll be like him. Um, Obi-Wan asked, "Why is my cap bent like this?" And I don't know what you're talking about because my cap isn't bent. So I'm confused what the question, what you're referring to, Obi-Wan. I mean, the top is bent because that's how a cap is shaped to the head, but otherwise I don't know what you're referring to. Nick McMinn bought some 25 hours 2 years ago and have charged them twice a day, still going strong. Excellent. Yeah, there's no reason why batteries shouldn't last a couple of years at least. Excuse me, the big brand names, cycle life for the smaller China factories because of the inconsistencies, because of the not low quality materials, but not as high quality materials, uh, like the battery group, uh, often don't have the as long a cycle life as the batteries from the larger manufacturers. And it's terrible because the cells from the larger manufacturers, excuse me, the smaller factories, smaller China factories, those cells are often sold at a higher price because they're being wrapped by companies that either give them exaggerated ratings or just price them higher because there's a colorful wrap, and that's just how they want to market their cells, priced higher than cells, the boring wrap cells from Murata and other ones that perform better, have longer cycle life, and so it's a terrible state of the market. Justin had an ST2, one slot died randomly. That's unfortunate. That's the X-Tar ST2. That was what, the 4 amp charger? That's a good looking charger. It did well in the testing. It is so hot in here. I think it's time for the air conditioner soon, but we have about another 20 minutes or so. Yes, okay. Justin says the ST2 was the 4 amp one. It becomes a blur, unless I'm actively using a charger or testing it or something like that. I had the Garofalcon AL88 here in the queue. I need to get to that. Red Claw Incheon asked number of cycles. What I say is an average for quality cells like the VTC 5A 40, essentially the 40T, essentially the bigger name cells. I can't even give you an average because it fundamentally depends on the age of the cell when you got it and how hard it's used. Someone who uses a Samsung 40T, you know, at 15, 20 amps might get double the cycles of someone who uses it at 30 amps. Um, if you're only just charging it down to 3.2 volts, it's very different than someone who just charges it lower. If you have a charger where you can charge to 4.1, you might double the number of cycles versus someone who charges to 4.2 at a high charging rate, and the charging rate matters too. So I can't say whether it might last 300 or 3000. uh, three number of cycles is 4.2 to 2.5 volts. If you only go halfway down, twice, that's one cycle. If you go all the way down, that's one. So we should get hundreds more cycles just from vaping because we don't go down to 2.5 volts. So, we should get, I'd say at least 500 cycles, 500 uses of a battery. But, one that's taken care of, I'd love to see, 1,000, once a day, 3 years, you know, cycle it once a day for 3 years. Make sure to put battery space mood. Skylar, I caught your message. It was near another one. What's the highest amp rating to expect to see out of 21700s in the next year or two? Not any higher, in my opinion, 35 amps, because there's no market. It was only a small market for high current rated cells versus high capacity. Energy density is what everyone's going for. Energy storage, electric vehicles, things like that. They want capacity, capacity, capacity. People want, to be able to drive a car 1,000 kilometers, not 250 kilometers, things like that. And you're going to need the capacity for that, not current ratings. So I think 30 amps is going to be it. Unless a customer comes along with an electric vacuum cleaner, which draws tremendous amounts of current, or a power tool maker, and has a tweak, and we get for a year or two access to excess inventory for a particular cell that has maybe a 40 amp rating or something like that. Sid one asked if I tested any 22 650 or 22 500 cells. None. Sorry, not a single one. I'd never even seen one, a 22 650 or a 22 500. Where'd you hear about those, Sid? But there's so many sizes. I mean, there could be 20 different size cells because they're used internally that just fit what room they have in a particular device. So someone orders, 2 million of this size cell, and then we start seeing excess inventory appearing when production of that device stops, or year to year, batch to batch or something, they have some excess inventory that the factory might sell off. KW96.5 asks VTC5A versus VTC6 for single 18650 mech. I'd say you want the VTC5. It's a 20 amp cell versus 15 amp cell. VTC6 has a decent amount of internal resistance, getting a lot of voltage sag. So use the 20 amp VTC5. Vapor has a 40T for over 2 years, still going strong. Excellent. Yeah, there's no reason. Well, there are some reasons, but hopefully everyone gets to use their cells for at least a couple of years. Justin, thanks for the recommendations. Yeah. Sid uses the SkyRC M3000 with Data Explorer instead of SkyRC software. Yeah, I never tried SkyRC software, but typically the software you get with chargers is pretty bad. Some of the third-party stuff, especially if it's open source and can be improved, can be a better choice for getting data out of the charger if you're someone who's storing the data during long-term studies and stuff. Oh, Sid saw SkyRC list them as compatible cells. Interesting. Yeah, there's no reason why they wouldn't work if a 26 millimeter works and an 18 millimeter works. That in between sizes wouldn't also work. I bet you they've never seen them either. They just heard they existed, so they put them on the list. Brad Palmer asks, did you ever test the iJoy 2700s? One of those was the only cell I've ever had go volcano on me. Yeah, in fact, I tested like 3 versions of them. I think the first one was 30 amp, and then the next 2 were 20 amp or something with crappy performance. So they were not great cells, but that was a couple of years ago since I've tested them. I'm sorry to hear you had one blow up. Wow. But after they started, after they swapped to a worse cell and then swapped again to another crappy cell, I was just like, okay, just don't buy these things. Darth Vapor says, I am his go-to for all battery and charger stuff. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, look around, find others, sources and stuff too. It's always good to get input from multiple people, but appreciate it. Thank you for your support. Yeah, Justin, no, I wouldn't even begin to recommend eBay for anything. The Molicel P26As on eBay will not be authorized sales. Who knows where they came from? That's just me. John Benanati with Super Chat, $5 donation. Thank you. We thank you for all you do for the vape community regarding battery testing and safety. Thank you for the kind words and thank you for the Super Chat. Jimmy Wolf, where's the best place to donate to you? I want you to get the most without someone else taking a percentage. Um, you can go to my Facebook page, Mooch. There's a link to PayPal there, and you can do a family and friend PayPal, and then I get all of it. But otherwise, you become a Patreon patron, or you can do a super chat here. Yes, they take a cut, but it's a lot easier for you as versus going to uh, Facebook and getting my PayPal link. Sorry, my brain was frying there. Obi-Wan asks, why can't you use Trustfire batteries? Because they're overrated pieces of junk. Any battery can be used, but we recommend not using them because they're so spectacularly overrated and they have a terrible reputation. It doesn't matter if you can get them for free. Don't use them. Tobai, what is the highest amp rated 18650? The Samsung 20S? Yes, at 30 amps. Everyone else is 25 amps or lower. Oh, I'm sorry, the LG HB2, HB4, and HB6, but the crap performers comparatively to the Samsung 20S. And I don't think any of them have been made in at least a couple of years, so I wouldn't buy those at all. Red Claw Inshan asks, do you know of any decent 2020 350s to use in a Notion? Sorry, I don't. What the iJoy is the only 2350 I've ever seen, and the first batch were a nightmare of inconsistency. They were just a disaster. Crap cells. I heard the second batch is better, but I haven't tested them, and I don't know, and I've never seen another 2350. Using it at about 5 amps. If you want more capacity, you can try them, but I know nothing about them, so I'm not able to comment about the safety aspects or cycle life or anything about the iJoy 2350s. Darth Vapor, what can I do to stop my batteries from sweating? You can try an antiperspirant. There's some miracle fabrics, some of the high performance sport fabrics. You could buy them from tank tops or something like that. If they lose weight, something like that, don't get them to stop drinking water. That's bad in this kind of weather. Yeah, okay, fine. That was terrible. Um, Batteries don't sweat. No such thing. If you're getting something underneath the wrap, or if there was machine oil or lubricant from when they take a disc, smash it into the can in the press, that can oxidize, maybe turn dark. Sometimes the wrap can get a tighter grab around the cell as it heats up and stuff like that, and can look like something darker, but really it's just pressing against the cell. If you peel off the wrap carefully, you'll see there's nothing on the inside. So there's nothing sweating. It can't be condensation because the battery's never going to be cooler than the ambient temperature, unless you're coming in, in winter or something like that. But in normal, in 3 seasons out of the year, it can't be condensation causing sweating. So something else is happening. Often it's e-liquid. You just have to put it down anywhere, and it gets sucked up inside. And since it's such a thin airspace in there, the e-liquid can spread to a lot of the part underneath the wrap. Jimmy Wolf, I already use PayPal everything, so I'll go that route. And thanks for trying to keep us safe and calling out crap manufacturers with overstated ratings. Thank you for the kind words. And thank you for supporting me with a donation. Red Claw Incheon says we'll stick to the 18350s. Yeah, there's just not a lot of options. The Keep Power or the VapCell 9 amp, or the Epoch from 18650 Battery Store. Obi-Wan uses a Trustfire battery with a mech mod. That's a bad idea. That's a terrible performing battery for a mech. And a sub-ohm tank on a mech, bad idea. Obi-Wan, you are asking for some very bad experiences. Never use a sub-ohm tank. If it's a hybrid top mech, never, because your pin can move because it's attached to the coil. And if that happens, if you don't tighten the tank up enough, and you can short circuit the battery easily. Please do some research. Don't use that mech until you do a lot more research on how to use that. And don't use a Trustfire battery. Almost anything else will be better. You're getting terrible performance too. Even if you don't care about your safety, you're getting terrible performance from that battery. Darth Vapor has a lot of his batteries get wet looking under the wrapper. I suspect it's e-liquid then. Nick McMinn bought a flashlight from Wish, and it came with two 18650s rated 50,000 milliampere per hour. Well, that solves any energy crisis the planet might have. I think you should take those batteries, rewrap them, become a vendor, and save the planet. 50,000 milliampere per hour? Wow. Yeah, that's a joke. But I bet you they sell huge numbers of them. Sean Demerol, so I shouldn't take my mech inside the freezer with me at work? That's okay. When you come out of the freezer, you get a bunch of condensation on it. I don't think that's gonna short anything, but the battery should not be used when cold, certainly. Um, Not sure why you're asking that question, what I had said to bring up that question. Let me know, Sean. If you keep it in an inside pocket, there'll be some condensation, but hopefully that doesn't cause any kind of problems. Tobai, what's the next best rated 18650 after the 20S? The VTC 6A and VTC 5D are hard to find, so I'd say and they're close anyway. The Molicel P26A at 25 amps, and then the VTC 5A at 25 amps. That's working your way down. SID1 is emphatically no to something. Darth Vapour, take a look to see if it's e-liquid. Yeah, if you're comfortable opening up a cell and understand the safety aspects of it, excuse me, taking off the wrap, you can see if there's a thin film of e-liquid there. I don't know if you'll be able to smell it. A lot of times the warm battery will drive off, any smell from the e-liquid caught under the wrap. Sean Damerel, I think you said never freeze your batteries. Yes, never, never, ever let your batteries get frozen. Terrible, terrible performance. And if you try to charge them when frozen, you can damage the battery and cause them to go into thermal runaway eventually. But, are the batteries getting frozen? Is your mech getting down to freezing temperature, and then the batteries themselves? Because every time you use them, the batteries are warming up a little bit. So you may have to, you know, every half hour come out of the freezer and just pull out a battery and see if it's getting cold. Fog Dog always asks, but he's got to know. Shirt. This week's is Suck My Mod. Matt, from SS, SMM now. Have had this shirt for a while, but I respect Matt tremendously for his advocacy and the quality of the work that he's done and his reviews and stuff, and so wanted to support him back when and bought the shirt. Chris Magalanes is recommending a good battery at 18650 Battery Store. If you're using it, the NCR 1860GA is my choice for best ultra high capacity cell, up to 5 to 7 amps, 15 to 20 watts. Above that, no, go with one of the 3000 milliamp hour, 15, 20 amp batteries. Also, Ulite asks, are there any VapCell chargers that let you charge a 4.1 or 4? I forgot if I think the XTAR Dragon does, the SkyRC M3 NC3000, I think also. Sid, chime in here. Can you adjust the charging voltage? I believe you can on the SkyRC M3000, but also check the XTAR Dragon. Red Baron Reviews asks, for my thoughts on replacing the insulator when replacing battery wraps. Uh, if it's not damaged at all, you don't need to replace it, but it certainly doesn't hurt to replace it. I always recommend buying insulators when you buy wraps because it's easy to lose them, and they can get damaged. Do you know of any thick wraps? BB Brands with a Z, BB Vape Brands or BB Brands Vapes has these gold metallic-y laser etched thicker wraps I have that I'm actually testing. It's too hard to get them, but they're thicker. It's 2 layers of polycarbonate with the decorative layer in between them. So they're thicker, but you got to make sure they can still work in your device if you've got a battery that's another millimeter bigger, because 2 of them side by side would be 2 millimeters. Anyone has a question? Battery space Mooch in the front so I can see. John Benanati wishes me to have a great week. Good night. Stay safe. John, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining us, excuse me. And have an awesome rest of the weekend, what time we have left. Tracy Thompson asks, what about the Gear Falcon? No adjustments there. You can adjust the current, or you can just, I believe, just big changes like 1.5 or 3.7 or 4.2 or something. And we got 2 more minutes left. Okay, Sid, you can adjust pretty well anything. And I remember extensive. It took me quite a while to get used to the SkyRC MC3000's menus. They're quirky, but you can adjust everything. But boy, you got to keep track of what you're doing and what you're setting it to and what you're using. I agree. Yeah, if you go into expert mode, you want to be careful. And we'll do a couple last questions and we'll call it an evening. And then I'll be listening to another vape show while I'm cooking dinner. And hope you guys join them too. Tell them I sent you. But Tracy Thompson, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your time tonight. Have a good one and stay safe, Battery Mooch. Thank you for joining us, Tracy, and thank you for your kind words. And I think with that, looks like the questions are done. I want to say thank you to everybody for joining me tonight. I hope everyone stays cooler, stays safe, and stays sane. Take care, all.